I never thought the person I gave everything to, my daughter, would one day become the reason my heart shattered beyond recognition. I remember the sterile scent of the hospital room, the beeping machines trying to hold my frail body together, and my daughter's voice, sharp and cutting, echoing louder than the pain in my chest. "I wish you were dead," she screamed. And the worst part? She meant it. Her eyes didn't flinch. There was no guilt, just cold, entitled rage. She looked at me like I was some old broken thing that needed to be tossed aside. Please subscribe to our channel and tell me in comments from where are you watching this video. It wasn't always like this. I was her rock, her everything. I raised her alone after her father walked out on us when she was only 5. I worked double shifts as a waitress, cleaned homes on weekends, skipped meals to save for her education. I went without so she could have more. I still remember the night she got her scholarship. She hugged me so tight and said, "You're my hero, Mom." That moment, it was enough to erase every sacrifice. But life has a cruel sense of humor. As my health declined and my body started to betray me, so did my daughter. Once I couldn't be the provider, the fixer, the do-it-all mom, I became a burden in her eyes. She rarely visited, and when she did, she scrolled through her phone, barely speaking. I brushed it off at first. Young people are busy, right? But then came the final blow. I had collapsed at home, alone. The neighbors found me hours later and rushed me to the ER. My daughter arrived 2 days after I was admitted. No hug, no warmth, just complaints about how inconvenient this all was for her. And when I asked if she could stay the night, her eyes filled with disgust. "You're not dying. Stop being so dramatic," she snapped. And then those words, "I wish you were dead." A nurse stepped in at that moment, but I was already gone on the inside. I didn't speak. I didn't cry. I just closed my eyes and realized I had become invisible in the life I built. I was a ghost in my own story. But what my daughter didn't know, what none of them knew, was that while my body was failing, my spirit wasn't. And I had one last story to write. One she would never forget. After that hospital incident, I stopped begging for love. I stopped explaining myself. I stopped trying to fit into a place where I was no longer welcome. Instead, I started planning my quiet exit. I didn't say a word when my daughter left the hospital that night. I didn't call. I didn't text. I watched the days pass in silence as the nurses cared for me with more warmth than my own blood ever had. One nurse in particular, Janessa, stood out. She was young, kind, always smiling despite her long shifts. She'd bring me warm tea without me asking. She held my hand when the nights got lonely. And one day, she sat by my bed and said, "You don't deserve the way your daughter treats you." That simple sentence shattered something inside me, but also set something new in motion. When I was discharged a week later, no one came to pick me up. Not even a message. I sat in a wheelchair outside the hospital clutching a paper bag with my medication, watching cars pass by until Janessa clocked out and saw me there. Without hesitation, she helped me into her little car and drove me home. That ride changed my life. Over the following weeks, Janessa began stopping by after work. She'd help me with groceries, make sure I took my pills, even fix little things around the house. I tried to pay her, but she always refused. "You've done enough for people. Let someone take care of you now," she'd say. And it wasn't just lip service, she meant it. She saw me, not as a sick, aging woman, but as someone worth respect, worth love. Meanwhile, my daughter was silent. Not one check-in, not a single call on my birthday. But her silence didn't break me anymore. It freed me. Then came the letter from my lawyer. Years ago, I'd invested in a small real estate property after winning a settlement. That property had appreciated massively. I had assets, real assets. And for decades, I had written my daughter into every single part of my will. But now, I realized something chilling. She didn't deserve a single piece of what I worked my bones to build. And so, I called my lawyer and made the changes. Quietly, completely. I changed my will. I changed my power of attorney. I signed over my home, my investments, even my jewelry, all to Janessa. Not because I was trying to spite my daughter, but because Janessa had earned something my daughter had thrown away: trust, loyalty, love. But the real twist? I didn't tell anyone, not even Janessa. Not yet. A month later, I received a call. My daughter was planning a massive engagement party, for herself, of course, and wanted to use my home for it. Her voice on the phone was sugar-coated like nothing had ever happened. "Mom, I know we haven't talked, but it would mean a lot if we could celebrate at your house. You won't even have to do anything, just be in your room or something. Just be in my room or something." That was all I was to her, a spare room in her party venue. I smiled and said yes, and that was the moment everything started to fall into place. The day of my daughter's engagement party arrived like a quiet storm. Sunny outside, but something dark stirred within me. I sat in the sunroom sipping chamomile tea, waiting. The house had been cleaned, polished, and decorated, but not for her, not really. Guests began to arrive, her fiancé's family in designer suits and sleek dresses, chattering about money and lineage as if their DNA sparkled. My daughter swept in last, radiant in a white silk gown. She didn't look at me, not once. She laughed loudly in the foyer, clinking glasses and greeting guests like a movie star. To her, I was invisible, a burden tucked into a spare room. That's when Janessa walked in. She wasn't wearing scrubs this time. She wore a navy blue cocktail dress and her hair up in a sleek bun. She looked powerful, graceful, and completely in control. My daughter blinked in confusion, then narrowed her eyes. "Who's that?" she whispered to her fiancé, as if I couldn't hear her. Janessa approached me, hugged me gently, and handed me an envelope. I opened it slowly, knowing what was inside. It was the final signed deed. My home was no longer mine. It was Janessa's, and the party that was about to take place? It wasn't going to happen here anymore. I stood up, walked to the center of the living room, and tapped a spoon gently against a glass. The noise wasn't loud, but it was enough. The chatter died down. Dozens of eyes turned to me, and for the first time in years, I wasn't afraid to speak. "I want to welcome all of you here," I said, my voice steady, "but unfortunately, there's been a change in plans. You see, this house doesn't belong to me anymore." There were murmurs. My daughter's smile wavered. I looked at her. "It was your idea, sweetheart, remember? You said you needed the house, that I should die soon so you could get it. So I did what I thought was best. I gave it away. To someone who actually cared whether I lived or died." My daughter's mouth dropped open. "You what?" I nodded toward Janessa. "She's the legal owner now. She's the one who took care of me, while you vanished, while you laughed behind my back, while you screamed at me in the hospital like I was garbage." People gasped. Her fiancé looked at her, his brow furrowed. "You said she was just being dramatic." My daughter's face turned beet red. You can't do this to me." Janessa stepped forward calmly. "Actually, she can, and she did. I'm the homeowner, and this party is over. Kindly ask your guests to leave, or I'll have security escort them." Security? Right on cue, 2 uniformed men arrived at the door, hired privately, just in case. The chaos that followed was deliciously quiet. No screaming, no drama, just stunned silence, as one by one, guests trickled out, too embarrassed to make eye contact. My daughter? She tried to argue, cry, plead, but I walked past her into the kitchen and closed the door. She called me 5 times the next day. I didn't answer. The next week, a letter arrived. She wanted to rebuild the relationship. She needed help with a down payment. I folded the letter, placed it in the fireplace, and lit a match. I wasn't doing this for revenge anymore. I was doing it for peace. Today, I live with Janessa in a new home by the lake. We garden, we cook together, we laugh often, and every now and then, she reminds me, "You gave me a place to belong when you didn't even realize it. This is your home, too." I never thought I'd find family again, not after the way mine treated me. But sometimes family isn't the blood that runs through your veins. It's the hand that holds yours when you're falling apart. And as for my daughter, let her beg, let her stew, because now I finally remember what it feels like to breathe in a house that holds love and not expectations.